Hello and welcome. Rent to rent versus service accommodation. Which is the better strategy? Well, if you're a property investor and you're thinking of supplementing your income or increasing your cash flow, then these are two strategies that are actually becoming or growing in popularity. And in today's show, we're going to be discussing the pros and the cons of each so that you can make up your mind as to which is the better one to go into, irrespective of what is going on right now. If we put that to one side with what's happening in the economy right now, we're going to be then diving in to which is the better strategy. So first of all, I'd like to welcome you to this sort of new channel that I've put together, Successful Property Investment Secrets, the number one resource for helping you to go further, faster in your property investing journey. Each week, we'll reveal some really good, useful strategies, resources, and tips used by some of the UK's most successful property investors in order to help you cut the learning curve and achieve your property goals. So if it's your first time watching this or coming to the channel, then please do make sure that you hit the subscribe button or follow so that you'll get notified the next time that we're coming up with some videos. So if you're watching this and you're wondering, well, who on earth is this guy? Well, my name's Arthur Thatcher. There are two things I actually do. The first is I'm a UK property sourcer. I find investment properties for both myself and my clients all over the country. And the second thing is I'm actually the campaign director at Eneasy Media, where people come to me when they're looking to get more customers from the internet. So without further ado, let's kind of start getting into the show. Oh, and just before I forget, two last things. If you're enjoying the content at any point, then please do give me a thumbs up or a heart, because it helps me to know to make more videos like this. And if you know anybody that might find this information useful, then please do let them know about it so we can all learn and grow together. So the first thing I want to kind of clarify, what is rent to rent, just to make sure that we're all on the same page. So rent to rent is essentially a strategy whereby you approach a landlord and you take on a property and you rent it out them for an agreed price. You then rent out that property on a room by room basis at a premium price, and the difference between what you get in and the expenses and minus the bills and what you pay to the landlord, that bit that's left is your profit. So that's rent to rent. Now, there are many good things with this and many not so good things with this. One of the great things with rent to rent is it's a low startup cost in comparison with buying an HMO yourself. So what happens is a number of times people will start, maybe they've got poor credit, maybe they don't have a large deposit to go and buy these large houses that have big rooms that they can then rent out on an individual basis, maybe to students, maybe to working professionals, sometimes to individual LHA tenants. That's generally what kind of happens. So if you think of a HMO, a shared accommodation, that's what you're essentially trying to achieve. And if you're taking on a property on rent to rent, what happens is you're essentially leasing the property from the homeowner, from the landlord, and then you then become the landlord and you are then renting out the property on a room by room basis. This is great for people that have low startup costs, low funds, because instead of you having to save up large amounts of money to get a deposit, which you then go and buy the house, you've got to get all these credit checks and all this kind of stuff to get a good interest rate level. You can simply lease a property from a landlord, and you then go and do all the hard work and run around, and you can make generally almost as much money from the property as the landlord themselves. So typically what you'll find is the amount of money coming in, you may have essentially a 50-50 split with the landlord. So that's one of the really good reasons. Low startup costs in comparison to if you were to go out there and have to buy. The next good thing about rent to rent is profitable cash flow. So once you've got people in there, typically people sign a 6-month AST contract. So they come in and they know that they're going to rent this property for an agreed amount of money for 6 months. So once you know how much money's coming in, usually you can kind of fix the bills or thereabouts, because you know how much roughly electric, gas, water, council tax, internet, you know how much those things are going to cost. And so you have an idea, a ballpark figure of how much your expenses are going to be. You'll have a fixed cost that you're paying to your landlord. And so long as you keep the property full, then you know how much money's coming in. And as I said, they come in, they stay for 6 months, you know, you got that amount of money coming in each and every month. The rest of it is just about managing and maintaining the property. The next good thing about rent to rent is that it's quite easy to understand. You don't need to go off on some really lengthy course. In fact, look at it. If you wanted to go and do anything at university to then become a professional, you go to university, you have to study for like 3 years, take a whole load of exams, do all that kind of stuff, get yourself into masses of debts and stuff like that in order to come out and get a job. Whereas if you go and start something like rent to rent, if you're renting at the moment or you're a home owner at the moment, then you pretty much understand the concept of running a property, right? You know, you've got bills to pay, you know that things can go wrong and there's maintenance people that you can call out, whether it's a plumber, a handyman or whatever, to come out and fix those kind of things. You know that there's a certain amount of money that will either go to the bank as your mortgage or a certain money that will go out to your landlord. If you then become the landlord, how to run that property, it's not too... it's not rocket science is the point that I'm making. So it's fairly easy to understand the concept. You lease a property off of a landlord or a homeowner, you then become the landlord itself, you go and find the tenants, and then you run that property as if you owned it. And obviously you're looking after the tenants, you're doing things in an ethical manner. So it's not too difficult to understand. Then the fourth thing that makes rent to rent pretty decent is that the property management side of the business can actually be outsourced. In fact, what you can find is with the amount of cash flow that's coming into the property, you can actually find someone that's willing to work part-time, and as an example, who's good with dealing with people and all of that kind of stuff. And you can have them do the day-to-day management side of stuff. So carrying out the viewings for you, arranging the maintenance issues, taking care of that kind of stuff, freeing you up to do more other things in your business. So you can start working on your business instead of in your business. So that's why rent to rent, again, is quite a good thing, because you know what the cash flow is going to be. And if you pick up 1 or 2 or 3, by the time you've done that, you're getting quite good money that you can then use to pay someone else to work part-time for you, and then maybe move to full-time. So you can outsource that. And if you do your models and your number correctly, you can actually have so what some people do is they actually get another letting agent to come in and sit in and manage the property for them. So a lot of people that are doing this remotely, what they'll do is they'll get the property, they'll set it up, they'll fix whatever the problem is in the property, rent out quickly, and then they'll get a letting agent, local letting agent, to actually manage the property for them and do a lot of the hard work there. So it's pretty good with that respect. So before I continue to the next one, I just want to let people know that you that are watching, first of all, if you've got any comments, please do leave them in the comments below. If you're watching the replay of this, please leave the comment hashtag replay, just so I know that you've actually watched it. And the other thing is, I'm actually doing I know that a lot of people are struggling to either find deals from letting agents, or find deals direct to landlord, or find get direct bookings, and this all comes into lead generation. And as I said, I'm the campaign director for Uneasy Media, and we do a lot of digital marketing stuff, and a lot of it is to do with lead generation. I've been doing a lot of one-to-ones recently over the last 6 months, and showing people how they can actually do this in their own business. I decided that instead of just doing this on a one-to-one basis, I can actually help more people do more justice if I actually do this to a mass audience. So what I'm going to do is do a 5-day challenge, and you can take part of that by going over to getleadswithvideoads.com/register. If you go to that address, which you can see scrolling at the bottom, I'm doing a free event over 5 days. And what I'm going to do, instead of sitting down with you on a one-to-one basis for like 2-3 hours, as I have been doing to get you to understand things, what I'm going to do is I've broken this down into much more smaller, manageable chunks, and I'm going to spread it over a 5-day period. And that way I can actually come on live with you like I am right now, and actually walk you through any issues that you're having in your business in terms of implementing this system. It's totally free. And as I said, if you go over to getleadswithvideoads.com/register, you'll be able to see the details, more details about it on the page. So go there and check that out. If you're looking to get more leads into your business, if you're struggling with that, I can certainly help you with that. Now, there are some drawbacks with regards to rent to rent, and I'll go through some of them quickly right now. Now, the first part is that it can be very management intensive. Now, when you're starting out, it's always a good idea, whatever strategy that you're doing, to actually do it yourself so you can learn the ropes. And one of the things with rent to rent is because you're usually working with 5 or more people, there's each person's their individual thing. So imagine you've got almost 5 like buy-to-let tenants in your property, and they can all have different issues. They can because they come from different backgrounds, there can be a clash that way. There's all sorts of things that can happen, so it can actually be quite management intensive. Now, the next thing that's a sort of a drawback, or not so great with rent to rent, is that ultimately you don't actually own the property. So what that means is, and this is often referred to as rent to rent Achilles heel, is at some point you're going to have to give the keys back to the owner of the property. They, for whatever reason, can turn around to you and say, hey, do you know what, I'm selling my property, I want my property back, or whatever, and you're going to have to give the keys back. Typically, what happens when you start out doing rent to rent, you have to do it for a short period of time. So it might be 12 months or 2 years or something like that, or even if it's 3 years. At the end of that term, everything can be going perfect, nothing wrong at all, and the owner can ask for their property back. That does lead to other problems, because if they're going to tell you in advance, look, I'm not going to renew, what can happen is you have to give notice to your existing tenants. It could just trigger a mass exodus in your property. So everyone just starts to leave, and then you've ended up with this really great property that's fantastic, nothing wrong with it, but everybody wants this security, so they then find another place to live, and you might find you've got a couple of months void period at the end of your towards the end of your contract. So that's one bad thing and sort of drawback with regards to rent to rent that you have to mitigate against and bear in mind when you're going into it. Another bad thing about rent to rent is one bad apple can spoil the cart. So you could do all your reference checks, everything, and you meet this tenant who's the loveliest person in the world to begin with, and then they move in after a month or 2 months. Maybe they lose their job, maybe they have a breakup or something like that, something happens in their life, and then they go on a downward spiral, and they're making noise, talking loudly on their phone, running up and down the stairs, slamming doors when everyone else is trying to sleep because they've got work in the next morning. They could be nicking people's food, all sorts of things, and that they could start smoking in the property, all sorts of things. And because of the way the law's set up in this country, there are a number of hoops that you have to jump through in order to get that person out. And if they are just a pain in the neck and they don't want to go, then it can prove very challenging to actually get that person out. And what you might find is, because you've got good tenants who, got good credit, got money to get a deposit, they may turn around to you and say, well, look, it's us or them. And if you've served them with a Section 21, even if it's a Section 8 notice, what can happen is they say, look, I've had enough of this. I'm not staying. I'm leaving. I found another place to go. So our good tenants could then leave the property, and then you're in a whole nother world of pain. So the next thing that is a bit of a drawback with regards to rent is that when you're first starting out, you will, if you're not, basically, when you're first starting out, what you'll find is a lot of properties tend to be held with letting agents. Think about it. The traditional thing is, if I'm a landlord and I want to rent my place out, I'm going to go to a letting agent because I don't really want to be a landlord anymore. I don't want to get involved in that. I don't want to give myself another job, right? So a lot of the time, whilst you're waiting for those direct leads to come in through your own marketing efforts, and you're reaching out to people, maybe doing landlord letters or whatever, what you're going to find is that if you're trying to get going, that you're probably going to find that you go to a lot of letting agents. Some agents will simply say no, they don't do it. Some agents will drag their feet. Some agents will just be difficult to work with. And some agents will ask you, because you're a brand new company and you don't have 6 months worth of accounts, then we're going to need huge deposits from you. Another thing they might ask for is, if you haven't got huge deposits, they might accept a guarantor. But then if you're almost a one-man band, you're doing this on your own, it's your sort of side hustle, where are you going to find that person that's going to put their neck on the line, say, yes, I'm willing to be a guarantor for these large amounts? And don't forget, HMOs tend to have quite large amounts. So if you're looking at £1,000, £2,000 a month, they're going to ask a guarantor that earns 2 to 3 times that kind of money. So I don't know if you know that many people that own £6,000 a month plus, that they'll then be able to act as guarantor for you, but that's few and far between for a lot of people. So getting a guarantor is not necessarily a great option. So going direct to vendor, having a landlord who's tired, doesn't want to do it anymore for whatever reason, and they're willing to do rent to rent with you, those are the people that you are the best people to kind of work with. And again, finding those people can be quite challenging. And if you would like to know how to overcome that challenge, then I would suggest you go over to getleadswithvideoads.com/register and sign up for the 5-day free challenge that I'm putting on that will walk you through that and how you can implement those steps and do it in your own business. Now, the name of this video is rent to rent versus service accommodation, and I realized that this video has gone on for a bit longer than I would have liked to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this into 2 parts so that we don't just have one massive long video. So I'm going to stop the video right now, and I'm going to come back with part 2, which will be the second part. We'll be talking specifically about the service accommodation side of things. So rent to rent, as a nutshell, just to wrap this all up, rent to rent is the ability of you going out and leasing a property from a landlord, a homeowner, and then you become the landlord and you go out and find tenants and you rent the property out on a room by room basis. The difference between what you get in and the amount of your expenses minus obviously what you pay to the landlord, therein lies your profit. That's rent to rent in a nutshell. And I've just gone over a load of the pros and cons with that. And in the second part of this video, I'm going to look at service accommodation, and then we'll sit back and review which of those two you think will be better for you. So I hope you found this first part of this video really useful. If you're looking to go and check out the second part, make sure you have a look on this page. I'm literally leaving and going straight into the second part now. So go and check out this page, this channel, and you'll be able to join in there. So thanks very much. And that's it from me for now. And I'll see you in the next video.